I know if I'm ever going to do anything else, it's now.
This will be the most significant budget in modern times in the province.
Hi, welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Don Braid, political columnist. I'm here with James Wood, our political reporter. And James, we're thundering toward an election on Jim Prentice' train of pain, where he's going to try to convince us we should vote for all these cuts and measures that are going to be very difficult for our own good. It's coming down fast. The legislature opens on March the 10th. Budget's coming later. What's your best guess on election timing? When are we actually going to be into a campaign?
Well, with the Tories seemingly holding a campaign college at the end of the month, it's looking now that perhaps we'll see an election call at the end of March, start of April, which would take us into a May vote. That seems to be the best guess at the moment, but of course it's really up to the Premier. He may surprise us. He did give his guarantee, though, that the budget will come first before an election.
Yeah, that was something really essential. Was he going to go into the campaign just sort of telling us generally what he's going to do, or is he going to give us details in a budget? And he did say also that 20 minutes after that information in the budget is released, most of the people in the province are going to say they don't agree with that. So he's really it's a most remarkable campaign shaping up that in my recollection in Alberta history for sure, where they are literally going to campaign on doing things that are very difficult for a great many people. Do you think they can hold their support in that kind of environment in an election campaign?
Well, it is an interesting strategy, because he seems to be counting on that people will be so angry about the budget that they'll overcome their anger over an early election, which we'll see how that works. Perhaps it's a repeat of the 1993 election, where Ralph Klein and Lawrence Decore were sort of in a race to see who could be the toughest. He seems to be counting on that sort of dynamic in play. And he also obviously is counting on the fact that the opposition parties are going to be in less than ideal shape for this election.
Which brings us to Wild Rose, which of course is having a leadership contest. A lot of people in the party, in the executive arm of the party, were kind of hoping that Brian Jean, the MP from up in Fort McMurray, would be acclaimed, but that's not the way it's going to be. There's going to be two candidates opposing him. How do you think that's going to go?
Well, you definitely got the sense that there were people in Wild Rose who are behind Brian Jean quite solidly. Yeah. We are going to have a contest. Drew Barnes, the MLA from Cypress Medicine Hat, and former Strathcona County Mayor Linda Osenchuk are also running in the race, and it could be a really interesting. Osenchuk, as one of our colleagues put it, threw down the gauntlet when she launched her campaign. She's going to be talking about issues such as gay-straight alliances, and she wants to ensure that the Wild Rose is a welcoming, moderate place. And I think there's a lot of people in the party who would like to not be talking about those issues at all during a leadership.
She really sort of threw Danielle Smith's position on some of that stuff back into the party. And of course, the position Wild Rose will be in when the election is actually called will be a difficult one. They'll just have chosen their leader. Like, they're choosing on March 28th, and that could actually be the day when Prentice calls the election. It's kind of hard to establish your leader's identity when you have virtually no time. They were really hoping for an acclamation.
Yes, well, March 28th will be, we could go directly from getting a new Wild Rose leader to hitting the campaign trail.
Absolutely.
And that March 28th, we're still waiting, of course, to see nominations for Danielle Smith and some of the other Tory MLAs as well. That might be a busy weekend. That
for sure. And of course, we had this startling news that Rick Hansen is retiring and or leaving the police force, and it was so unlike the way Rick Hansen usually is, because he's a planner, he's a very meticulous guy. He lays out the path before his officers and everything. For him to quit and say, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, I mean, everybody knows what that means. It means that Rick Hansen is going to run for the PCs. Would you agree with that?
Well, I'm not as plugged in as you are, Don, so I won't go that far. But there does seem to be some Tories who think he is very likely to be running.
Well, the other issue for the Premier is that because this is coming on so fast, maybe because they've lowered pay again, the crop of candidates they're attracting has not been too appealing. One very good candidate, John Sebastian Roux, actually lost to a guy who was an MLA 20 years ago. We've had other comebackers like Evan Berger down south. He's not really getting renewal. He's getting some re-oldism, if you like, old guys coming back rather than new people coming in. So the idea of Rick Hansen as a candidate is spectacularly appealing to Jim Prentice. They are friends. I think they're probably just deciding which riding. You do agree with that, don't you, James? You're plugged in. Come on.
I agree with you, Don. I think that's likely.